Hey, this is week one of the off week for the Olympics for the NASCAR fans or NASCAR Cup Series. My goodness, this is a chance to recap the weeks that I missed because I went on break for friends. Back in the week of May, we're gonna recap the Darlington and the Dover race weeks while we're on break. But I'm not gonna be doing this alone. I got a good friend that I met just a few months ago, helped me with fantasy, kind of NASCAR fantasy buddies. Say hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Yeah, me and him, we got nothing to do while fantasy's on break, along with the Cup Series, so might as well check out some of these past weeks, like at the Darlington recap. So, I did fairly alright for the Darlington week. I pretty much picked every single driver that did well, except for the race winner, Martin Truex. He won the race and got maximum stage points, sweeping the first two stages. What do you think about that, Andrew?
Yeah, what a dominating performance. I think at the end of the race, he said it was a good old-fashioned ass whooping, and I could not agree more than that.
So I definitely wish I saved Truex. I feel at that point I wanted to save Truex for the upcoming road courses, like say Circuit of the Americas and Road America. Who would have thought that I wouldn't even be using Truex at either of those two tracks? Knowing that, I probably would have played Truex here, and especially Martinsville. I didn't actually play Truex at Martinsville either, so lost a lot of points there as well.
Yeah, definitely very surprising that Truex struggled on these newer road courses. The older road courses, he still is doing good. I ended up using Truex at Martinsville, but yeah, still had 3 uses left, and I thought I'd use them at a road course, but no, we were
Really smart.
yeah, we were not very smart in doing that.
Looking at all of our lineups here, we're pretty much the same here. We had our building blocks of Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson. No, my main one didn't actually have. It did have Harvick, but I ended up garaging him because he earned the fewest stage points out of Larson, Reddick, Hamlin, Logano, and Byron.
Yeah, definitely. Logano was definitely running better than Harvick at the end. It was just really at the end of stage 3, had a costly penalty on pit road. I think he sped or something like that, so he had to serve that penalty.
Sounds about right.
So ended up finishing 13th, which is not bad, top 15 for him that day. But definitely Harvick outpointed him in fantasy for that week.
In this lineup here, JJU say lineup. I'll just go by that pronunciation. 5AY. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You nailed the top three manufacturers. You've got Larson, Harvick, and Truex.
Yeah, just came up short on the race winner and the manufacturer. Definitely. I guess I just went all Harvick that week since, yeah, Harvick's been pretty dominant or pretty good at Darlington in the past couple of races. As he did win that last year race, the one from back from the pandemic.
Indeed, he was very good. And then who would have thought that even into this break, Harvick is still winless. He could have very much won it here at Darlington. Instead, our lineups and all our predictions get blindsided by Martin Truex Jr., who swept the stages and the race win.
Yeah. What we could have done to prevent this, I mean, definitely, I guess, yeah, when they say he was a short track king, I think they mentioned it during the broadcast or a lot of times. Yeah, he's definitely kind of a king of the short tracks, or definitely someone to put in your lineup.
I feel if I threw the idea of saving usages out the window at around this time, I would have for sure played Truex. But like I said before, I felt like I had to save him for all the road courses, just like Chase Elliott.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in the couple weeks after this, there's definitely, even if you don't use some of the top tier teams, some of the like mid tier teams like RCR, Roush, you can definitely use. Just some surprising guys getting up there in the top 10 for fantasy.
If we haven't looked at the top results from Darlington, but here they are. You got a lot of Joe Gibbs drivers, 3 of them scoring more than 40 points, which was something, I'm guessing. One thing I noticed about not just Martin Truex Jr., but as a whole, the rest of Joe Gibbs Racing, it seems their best results are on tracks that are going to be in the playoffs later, like, say, Martinsville, Darlington, and so on. Even Phoenix, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely ran well at those kinds of tracks, and then like the Hendrick Motorsports guys, they usually run well. They also run well in like the playoff tracks, but definitely they kind of maybe excel more on the tracks that are not in the playoffs. Although, this past week, at New Hampshire, that wasn't the case.
For sure. But maybe it's just them getting ready for the playoffs with 4 races to go. Momentum is it's a good time to start building up momentum for the playoffs. But yeah, to your point, that's a good valid argument that not all tracks, or for some tracks, they're going to be good at even whether or not it's going to be in the playoffs. Watkins Glen could be a thing too because Truex is very good at uh, either Sonoma or Watkins Glen. So even one thing I also want to bring up, not just Joe Gibbs's dominance, but you got Tyler Reddick that brought it home 12th with 36 points. But the very fringe of that top eight is Ryan Blaney. Now here and Richmond, he's been very impressive with those two tracks because the year before that, 2020, Blaney's been horrendous on Darlington and Richmond. It was actually the main reason he didn't even make it past the round of 16 last year was his struggles at Richmond and Darlington. But it seems Todd Gordon and the guys at that 12 shop, they figured out something for those two tracks, and hopefully they'll bring back some of that results from last races at Martinsville and Darlington and Richmond, and they can make a deeper playoff run than what they did in years past.
Yeah, definitely. Ryan Blaney is not only just in 750, but like definitely some of the other tracks like 550, they've also excelled at. It's really just yeah, trying to see where they capitalize most. And yeah, Darlington they ran well. I know at the end of the race he did try and pit at the end. I think he hit the wall, but he ended up recovering for eighth. He and Christopher Bell were the ones that ended up I don't wouldn't say like hitting the wall to like, ending your day, but like they definitely scraped the wall, and yeah, they had to pit and still ended up coming home eighth and I want to say 13th or 12th. But definitely still good drivers to use
For
and were
Reddick, good.
fast.
It's 12th.
Oh, sorry. I want to say that they ended up coming home. They ended up coming home 14th. Bella ended up coming up home 14th, and Blaney ended up coming home 8th. But still, all day long they were really fast at Darlington. I think they even tried riding that wall and definitely racing against each other, and yeah, still had a great day.
And the last one more driver I want to mention before we move on to Dover, that's worth mentioning for Darlington, Denny Hamlin. Uh, just like Truex, he was a good number two Joe Gibbs driver for Darlington. I didn't really have Hamlin in, I did play him for Darlington, but just like Truex, I missed out on playing him for Martinsville. If I knew I didn't have to save as much for Hamlin as I do now, I would have for sure had Hamlin for, say, Martinsville. At that point, much earlier in the season than results he's been putting up the last 2 months. There, because his Martinsville results, they're far better than, say, what he put up at Kansas or even New Hampshire.
Yeah, definitely. I think you really went with the strategy of using a lot of Denny Hamlin at the beginning of the season. I did not, because I thought he would really definitely would excel more in the summer stretch, like with Michigan, New Hampshire, even Nashville. I thought he would definitely excel more. I would say Nashville. I mean, still Nashville, he ran good. He just ran out of fuel at the end of the race and had to pit. Just like Pocono race two. And New Hampshire, he was up there. I think just really when you went to go look back at that race, just the restarts, he was just terrible at them, and he just yeah fell back. And he just every time he had to just keep catching up, and just ended up finishing 10th. And also he had a speeding penalty, or definitely some kind of pit road penalty that set him back to like 20 ish in that New Hampshire race. And yeah, he just had to keep come crawling back for a top 10.
All right, he's been having a lot of those kind of issues, like with speeding penalties, a lot later in the season. We're talking maybe about 14 races into the season. Before that, he's been far more automatic, like at tracks like Martinsville and others that aren't off the top of my head. But Back to your point on my strategy of using what 3 Denny Hamlin plays in the first 3 races of the season. I feel I could have gotten a lot more aggressive with that strategy and include plays at Martinsville umpteenth time. And I kind of feel like I left myself with an extra Denny Hamlin play as we're approaching that summer stretch, and then I ended up using it at places like, say, Kansas and New Hampshire, which they're still respectable results, but from what we saw earlier in the season where Denny was scoring 50, 40 loads of points, then I was slightly disappointed by those kind of results. Okay, so that was the week of Darlington. Definitely a week to get in all of your stud plays, and likes of most of Joe Gibbs' camp, Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, and we thought to rack him up and play him again at Dover, but there would be another organization that would kind of have the field in check. So looking at the Dover results, I for sure wanted to keep Martin Truex in just because of how good he was at Darlington, and he's also no slouch at Dover either. So starting from the pole, he would have some issues right away.
Yeah, definitely. As I always do with races, I always look at Twitter. But yeah, I definitely, even afterwards, even if you don't look at Twitter, definitely you saw like they were patching up that news. Like he had some nose damage at the beginning of the race, and yeah, he just started falling back from there, and was running around like 12 to 15, that area, which is not normal for someone who's in a JG car. Well, besides maybe Bell, since it's his first year in a JGR car. But yeah, Martin Truex with 2 or 3 years under his belt, definitely something unexpected.
So you clearly see here we kind of saved Truex for the wrong track. I didn't have him for Darlington, but I had him in Dover. Here we are, only getting 18 points here. So this is pretty much where we would conclude on saying that whoever's on pole for each of these races during the summer stretch, and much earlier as well, that they just don't have the luck. Something happens to that pole sitter every week.
I always say, like, don't always try and put like the pole sitter in your lineup, or if you do, try and have a good replacement in that garage. And yeah, definitely here's an example of that. With Truex falling back and yeah, getting that damage.
And if I didn't pair him with Kyle Busch, then I would have no trouble garaging Truex here. But unfortunately, my main lineup also had Kyle Busch, which he had issues early on as well. He had engine issues, which a team would have to check under green, and they would end up losing 7 laps.
Yeah, definitely something that no one in the world can predict. But yeah, definitely. I guess I would say Kyle Busch hasn't been the best. His track Dover hasn't been the best track for Kyle Busch. Some races he runs good, and then just some races he just crashes or just has a problem.
I only had one lineup that started the race winner of Dover, Alex Bowman. He had a very good pit stop last stop of the day. He beat out Kyle Larson. He got the clean air and kept it in front and led Hendrick Motorsports to a 1-2-3-4 finish. How about that?
Yeah, that was amazing. Like, everyone saw like, Larson was gonna win. Even like the guys in the booth, and like when they do their race winner picks, they're like, yeah, Larson all the way. He's gonna win, right? Yeah, he had the fast car. He had a fast car for that race, and definitely, yeah, it goes to show you how like the 48 magic still works at Dover. Not just because they replaced the driver, they just still 48 is always good at Dover, and you should always put them in there.
Just like peanut butter and jelly, 48 and Dover just go hand in hand together. Another thing to add to the 1-2-3-4 finish, after seeing the dominance of Joe Gibbs Racing from the 2015 and 16 season, there are points during that time where I thought they would eventually get 1-2-3-4, because looking at the driver cast for that year, you got Matt Kenseth, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Carl Edwards. Those 4 drivers they're capable of doing that. But here we are. We got that happening with these 4 young drivers with Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and William Byron. Only one of those that won a championship. Whereas back then with Joe Gibbs, you got future champion Kyle Busch and already proven champion in Matt Kenseth.
And Martin Truex Jr. I think won the championship that year, or definitely a future champion.
2017 with Furniture Row Racing,
Oh yeah,
but
but
sure.
still a
I'm sure there's
champion.
a point where, okay, we could throw Truex and say the rest of the top five, say fifth, but that's more so the Daytona 500 in 2016. Just like Truex at Darlington, I've always thought that Alex was very capable at Dover, but I don't think he had a very good starting position for this race.
He would end up starting 16th for the Dover race.
Yeah, very mediocre starting position, very easy to look over that. And plus, my building blocks for Dover were, okay, Truex, Larson, Harvick, and Kyle Busch, which two of those wouldn't even score more than 20 points.
Yeah, and I think also definitely yeah, Bowman during this time, you could say he was really kind of inconsistent a bit. Like, one week he would run good, and then the next week you want to play him, and then it just somehow doesn't run as good as last week, as you would say. And yeah, it was kind of unfortunate. In my lineup, I had definitely the 4 car, the 24 car, the 5, and the 9. Pretty three building
Yeah, you
blocks I
tried your
would think
hands
to
out
use.
of a decent combination of Joe Gibbs. Unfortunately, it wasn't Denny Hamlin. Hamlin would be the only Toyota that would do semi decent. All of his teammates, they would finish outside the top 18 and get only less than 20 points. None of them scored stage points. Only Hamlin did.
And yeah, not to give a shout out to Bubba. He finished 11th. Still, you probably wouldn't think to use Bubba anywhere, but yeah, that was kind of a shocker. And Daniel Suarez top 10. Definitely, he's a guy to use on concrete tracks.
Yeah, for sure. Bubba, he got a good 11th place result, but still not nearly enough points that's gonna get you above the overall standings. But for sure, I can't ignore the results from Bubba or from Daniel Suarez. He proves that Dover is one of his better tracks. It's just that we have yet to see him do that and earn stage points as well. To the likes of what he did at the Bristol Dirt Race.
And yeah, and like in the future races at Nashville, he really shows that he does well on these concrete tracks. Especially if they're definitely shorter than 1 mile, I would say, or 1.5.
So we're gonna look at the Dover top results. Pretty much, I almost went with all Hendrick cars, but Alex starting too far back made me skip on him barely, and I wanted to focus more on starting his teammates and then including two Joe Gibbs drivers and Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, just I guess with those two Joe Gibbs cars, just yeah, it didn't work out in the end, but definitely you saw one of them somehow come out strong in Denny Hamlin, and don't forget to mention like Team Penske, like they had two of the same guys from last week, Logano and Blaney, also getting the top 8 for points. Or Logano did finish 9th last week in points, but definitely we're good. Good drivers here on the 750 package tracks.
Logano would be the best finishing car that's not from Hendrick Motorsports, starting or finished 5th. But not a whole lot of stage points, but picking Logano for Dover, which I don't think he's had that many great results at. That was somewhat of a surprise result.
Yeah, definitely. I think also definitely to add to Logano's case, or to see like why his finish might be a little bit fluky, is definitely I think he definitely had some fresher tires, I would say, than the rest of the field had. So really, yeah, he just with those fresh tires and that capable car and a capable driver, he just drove up the field and yeah, definitely passed Harvick for top 4, and yeah, cost us 5 points for top 4, as yeah, I would say a majority of people definitely rostered Harvick as the top 4 since he's kind of been the king of
Very true.
Dover. If it's not for Jimmy Johnson or the 48 car.
Yeah, right. And I got a few drivers we can mention from this Dover week. The race winner, Alex Bowman. If we include all the tracks that run the 700 horsepower that are not in the road course and are in the regular season, that'll be the last time he finished inside. Last time he earned any stage points is when he won Dover. His next 2 finishes after Dover at Nashville and New Hampshire, below 30 points. But yeah, right before winning Dover, his results are pretty mixed bag here. We're looking at he won Richmond also, and then the crash at Martinsville. Darlington, I was pretty disappointing. He's kind of like Martin Truex to Dover in that sense, where I thought Alex was going to run good, especially what he did in the first two races at Darlington last year. He was up there contending with Kevin Harvick for the win.
Yeah, I can definitely see how you would come from that. Like, I think, yeah, going back to what I said, like, Bowen was really just inconsistent, like, as you can see from this page. Like, Martinsville, he crashed. Richmond, he goes up to win the race, and then just the week afterwards, just finishes mediocre. Like, I guess definitely his inconsistency was just one thing that didn't want me to, was one thing I factored that I didn't want to put him in my roster and just, decided to take a risk with Tyler Reddick instead.
Right, it's just been a roller coaster season for Alex. To think he has 3 wins so far this season, but he's only 11th in points behind Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, those two, Brad Keselowski and Harvick, just these past weeks haven't run the best of, or the best that you would think they would run. So, like, definitely a top 5 or top 8. They've been like around 10th to 13th ish.
And next driver, we got to mention Kyle Larson. He's been dominant on just about every race. During the whole May to June races, every race that was held in those 2 months, he has finished in the top 10 in all of them. And then there's only one race where he didn't finish either first and second. That's just how good Larson was. And if you burnt up a good chunk of those Larson plays, then you got a good turn-in value with him, with tons of points from him.
Yeah, definitely Larson was really dominant, and if you wanted to save him for like other races, you probably shouldn't have. And yeah, just should have gone on, like, as I mentioned a lot. Just when a driver's on their streak of like good finishes, you probably just gotta roster them anyhow. It doesn't matter if the past results have shown that they've run terrible. You just gotta put them in there, and I would say Larson has definitely stepped up to be that number one car for Hendrick, as he just got a contract extension for like a few years.
Right, for sure. Honestly, all 4 of those Hendrick cars they're competing with one another to be that best Hendrick car. Right now, Larson has proven quickly that he wants to be that one. Not only he's the highest in the point standings, but he's gunning for Denny Hamlin for the regular season championship.
Yeah, he's only 13 points behind, and with that 5 car, just even at New Hampshire, not the best Hendrick Motorsports car, still finishing 7th. Like, still, that's pretty good, and what he has to work with, and yeah, definitely it's going to be a factor for this championship.
And back to your idea with usages, I honestly feel now it might be the best time to run out of Kyle Larson plays if you really want to think that either Watkins Glen he'll have an okay day, not to the likes of what he had at Nashville, Charlotte, Dover, and Darlington as well. But there has been a slight drop off in points that Larson has earned. He went from the points he earned from May and June, where he earned 50, and just last week at New Hampshire, he only scored 35. So I think this might be the best chance where he could try and get some no plays with Larson.
Yeah, definitely. I would say even the drop off has gone like a bit backwards to like after the Pocono races to just Road America. After winning Sonoma, I would say a lot of people would have probably rostered him for this Road America race. Seeing how he just won at Sonoma, a road course race. Had a pretty good day. Just at the end, just got dumped by, of all people, his teammate, Alex Bowman. Ended up having 36 points at the end of the day, finishing 16th. Still had a good amount of stage points, second in all of the guys who had stage points with 15. But yeah, definitely you could see where he probably shifted from being that like dominant guy with 40, 50 points, guaranteed to like, going down a bit to 30-ish points.
One driver we surprisingly might not have to worry about saving usage is Kevin Harvick. If I knew that I wasn't going to be saving, I don't have to save Kevin Harvick plays to the likes of, say, Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott, then shoot, I would have played him at the Daytona 500 in a heartbeat, seeing how much he can survive super speedways, especially the first 2 every year at the Daytona 500 and the April or May Talladega race.
Yeah, like Harvick, you would think he would have at least what, like 2 or 3 wins by now, but apparently, yeah, just SHR and their struggles in 2021. It really has been shown, even though they did win last week at New Hampshire. but that was by
Wow,
Eric
Almirola.
Almirola. Yeah, like no one expected Almirola to get a win before Harvick. Um, Although Almirola has been good on the super speedways, which we've already run, before Harvick, but definitely those races in between Harvick, you think would be a really good driver for those races. But yeah, he's been, average. I would say if there was anyone to really compete with Hendrick besides, Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs, it's definitely Harvick. But yeah, just around like a seventh to eighth kind of guy to compete with them.
Yeah, indeed. And his last three results, 750 non-road course results, are good. He's finished either fifth or sixth, and getting well above 30 points with our right stage points. Actually, above average stage points. Or two of them are double digits.
Yeah, just I would say, Harvick has been really good at these 750 tracks. Just I would say the only track that he really struggles at is just Martinsville, which last year that was clearly evident, and this year it was, although he finished ninth, it's not the best of tracks for him. Just in general. But also like if you see that Richmond, you see why only 20 points. He was running pretty good all day long. Just yeah, ended up causing that late race caution by spinning out from a blown tire and just rode around.
Changed everything.
Yeah, definitely changed everything from a Denny Hamlin win to now a Alex Bowman win. But just yeah, still kept riding around and just finished 24th. But yeah, in total, Harvick is just good at these 750 tracks. Definitely these shorter tracks, and like Stuart Haas in general is just good in these short oval tracks with the 750 package.
Yeah, a little surprising. Some of these early tracks for Harvick, it was kind of a bit slumpy. Some of his best results came around starting with May, and some of them also came at some 550 tracks like Kansas. But your best results with Harvick are, yeah, right before the summer stretch, and a good chunk of the races during it as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really anything to put out there, but maybe, like Harvick is just, trying to experiment, or they're just trying to work on their setup to maybe, just somehow surprisingly just go and dominate the playoffs. That's just, some kind of a weird thing to put out there. But yeah, just it hasn't been the same old Kevin Harvick that we've seen in the past years.
One thing I didn't mention while we're recapping these Darlington and Dover races is that it goes to show you that some of these drivers, it's best to just get almost all of their usages done early. We're talking the likes of Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Joey Logano. Most of their best results have come at the early points in the season. Joey Logano, one of his best results was his win at the Bristol Dirt Race. If I wasn't so cautious and going all big on some sleeper picks, then I could have went with some drivers like say Joey or Denny, and those two drivers right before that, they had some really good results. I just didn't know that they would also carry that to a track like the Bristol Dirt. And so that's gonna do it for my recap for the Darlington and Dover week. Let's do this again, Andrew. This was a lot of fun. Next week, week 2 of the Olympic break, there's 2 more races that I didn't cover when they're around. That's going to be the Circuit of the Americas and the Nashville weeks. So again, Andrew, thanks for coming on the show.
Yep. It was definitely my pleasure to give my advice on, NASCAR fantasy. And yeah,
you've been a big help to my lineups and these videos as well. You've been my background help, behind the curtains help.
Yeah, I have.
So that's going to be it for this video. Tune in next week. We're going to be covering the Circuit of the Americas and the Nashville race weeks. So thank you, Andrew, again for joining. We'll catch you next time.